Hey guys, and welcome to episode two, season two of the Cardinals Nation 24/7 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lollis, and with me tonight, as always, is the living legend, Larry Cox. How you doing tonight, Larry?
All right, Chris, going on, man.
Doing all right. Glad to have baseball back. And also glad to have Mr. Zak Jenn back with us. So welcome back to the show, Zach.
Good to be here. Baseball's back.
It is. It is. It's been quite a while since we put out a show. I know there's a lot of chatter on the internet of are you guys coming back for a season two? You kind of teased us with the first episode, but with the baseball lockout, we kind of like I said we took a hiatus too. There wasn't much to report, and obviously now we have baseball back, which is exciting. I think that we've heard enough of the chatter. We don't want to revisit some of the past on the greedy owners, greedy players. The bottom line is baseball's back. So I'll start with you, Larry. How excited are you that, what looked like this season might not turn out to be 162 games, that, we are getting a full season and a little behind schedule, but going to make it happen?
Man, I'm baseball's it, man. You get so excited, you get worked up. The winter months get drag on. The Super Bowl ends. You're ready for baseball. Then all the walkout stuff, and you're like just praying for it. Now, seeing the guys throw the ball and seeing some spring training games on TV, it's just you're ready for spring. You're ready for summer. So I'm excited as hell, man.
And Zach, what about you? I know, we talk in our group chat a lot, but it almost seemed like with the lockout going on, we didn't have much excitement level. It was, we're all diehard fans, so just to have it back, I mean, I'm sure that kind of rejuvenated the spirits of getting pumped up for the season.
Oh yeah, that's big. I mean, I know we were saying, are we going to have half a season? Are we going to play a season at all? And really, I think for us, we just started getting so disconnected because for them it's all about the money, where this is our enjoyment. So I think it definitely gave people something to look forward to, and summer is actually going to feel like summer.
Well, I know the Cardinals they didn't get the best news so far. Starting spring training, there's a couple guys now with Jack Flaherty and Alex Reyes that we'll touch on real quick. That looks like Alex Reyes is going to miss a significant amount of time with shoulder issue, and Flaherty got kind of pushed back where he won't be resuming throwing activities for a couple weeks with a shoulder issue as well. So, how concerned are you with obviously the way that baseball is going right now with getting a late start? Just to see those two names is bad enough, but we might be seeing some more pitchers, hitting the injured list, and that's not a good thing. I mean, what are your thoughts, Larry, on getting the news on Flaherty and Reyes?
Flaherty, in a comment I had seen, he had said that he's had that tear for a while since college and all. So he wasn't a big deal to him. He said, "Now why are they making a big deal out about it now?" And it's because he's getting closer to the big bucks. That's why. But Reyes, that's a major concern for me. I mean, how many times is this kid going to get injured and the Cardinals are just going to mark him fragile and move on from him? That's the scary part of him. I mean, I really thought he broke through last year in the first part when he just took a hold of that closer's role and took off. Now the injuries just, it's got to be devastating to him because of the way his season ended last year. And Chris is the audio, so it's official. Chris, turn off your. There you go.
There you go. I was going to say, it's crazy too that Alex Reyes, they talked about maybe stretching out to be a starter this season, and even though they did go out and get a Steven Matz, to fill the rotation, knowing that you're without Reyes now for a chunk of time, I think totally squashes the idea of him, returning to start. And there was reports too that Gallegos was going to be the favorite to start the year as a closer, but losing Reyes, I mean, that's a good chunk of time he's going to be out. Zach, I mean, what are your concerns with him and Flaherty? I know other pitchers are going to be looked at too, but those two guys are catalysts.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard me say I think this is Jack's year to step up or step out. I don't. People don't think he wants to be here long term, and maybe he doesn't. And I think the front office, it's kind of like, okay, we need to either see what this guy's got and sign him to a long-term deal or try to, or we need to ship him out. And I think one, for me, it's like, I don't know why he hasn't had his shoulder repaired. It's not a major surgery in the sense that it is now. It gets worse. It becomes a lot more major of a surgery. And two, I think Mozeliak probably broke that news for leverage of not having to pay him. I mean, I do. I think you look at that, it probably backs them into a corner like, okay, they have to accept the arbitration number. It doesn't really make sense for them to go, to arbitration where Reyes, same story, different year, or, things like that. And it is unfortunate, but at this point, I think all of us, it's kind of like the air has been let out of a balloon. I don't think anybody really has any hope that he's going to contribute to the team, or I shouldn't say any hope, any expectation. We all have hope, but no expectations that that'll happen.
Yeah, I think it hurts too that, over the course of the lockout that the players weren't able to talk to training staff and, all that. You see where Tatis Jr. with the Padres, he had a accident with a motorcycle, and it's like now he's missing a significant amount of time. Whereas, if we would have addressed this with Reyes early on, he would have already been, taken care of. So I know that lockout did kind of screw some things up with that, but I agree with what you said. I think Flaherty, that was kind of a leverage move by Mo to maybe make a mountain out of a molehill on, his shoulder issue. But I agree with you too that he should have already had that taken care of. I mean, if you're wanting to lock a guy up long term, you want to know that he's got a track record of being healthy. And even though he did start the year off great last year, it hurt this team to be without him, that long. I mean, that's why we did the flurry moves that we did on bringing a lot of veterans in, was, him being out and pitchers like Carlos that were, walking guys, constantly. But Larry, what do you think about the pitching staff so far? The Cardinals did go out and make some moves. It wasn't any big, sexy names. Obviously, we joked that they got a bunch of mid-30 guys from the Korean leagues, but, we've got Drew Verhagen, Aaron Brooks, Zach McAllister, Nick Whitgren, and Packy Naughton as the pitchers that the Cardinals have got this offseason. Is there anybody on that list that excites you that you think will make an impact?
I don't know. We were talking about they brought over from Japan. He's kind of the kid that I watched pitch against the Mets this week, and spring training game, of course, but he looked pretty sharp. I mean, he had good command of the ball, and it looked like to me that he throws strikes, and that's the biggest thing is right now is, again, the conversation is that do we need to bring an ace in all the time? All we need are guys throw strikes and, pitch to contact. We've got Gold Glove defense all the way around the infield, the outfield. Why do we need to pay a $47 million a year guy to come in to just get ground balls? Let's get ground ball pitchers. I mean, Woody Williams and those guys made a living out of it with Roland and those guys. So why not just go with the success we've had? But I mean, none of the names that you mentioned are really big names, so nobody's going to really know who they are. Steven Matz, of course, is going to be the one guy we're counting on. He's going to have to eat up some innings, but him too. He's got issues too with injuries in the past. So hopefully he comes in, he's sharp. Dakota Hudson returning from, of course, his off season, being gone a year for his surgery. So really right now it's Matz and you're looking at Michaelis for a rebound year. So you got 4 pitchers right there, and you're counting on Waino again to be the 40-year-old, ace of the staff. This is not a great way to start the season. But, who knows what could happen between now and we break the season. We've been linked to the A's with a couple of pitchers there. And, of course, I like to have Sean Manaea. He's a local kid from the pitch here at Indiana State. So, and we just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I think what frustrates me with the Cardinals is obviously we didn't know, that Jack was going to be missing a little bit of time. So you knew that you had him and Wainwright, and you've got Michaelis, and you've got Hudson coming back, and you go get Matz, and that looks like your starting 5. Outside of that, now that Flaherty is going to be pushed back a little bit, that kind of opens the door for somebody like Jake Woodford that he can come in and start the year off. I don't think they go to Oviedo quite yet on giving him another chance, but he's looked good in a couple outings so far. And then there is the chance that maybe they keep Liberatore up and he gets his shot finally. Now, I can see with having some of those arms that the Cardinals wouldn't be in a rush to go spend big bucks on a starting pitcher. But like you said, when Oakland is out there with 2 stud pitchers that, Montes has 2 years on a deal, Manaea is just 1 year, you could probably on the cheap get Manaea and a package of prospects that the Cardinals would not be expecting to play in 2022. You get somebody like Manaea, and that's another lefty that would be in the rotation that, between him and Matz, I've said I think Matz is an A- signing. I think he's going to have a great year for the Cardinals. The rest of them are, C minus, D plus type of guys that are only there for, fillers. They're not anybody we're going to rely on.
The pulse, yeah.
Right. But, it didn't surprise me that the Cardinals didn't go out, like I said, and spend big money on a starter. But, Zach, I'll shoot it to you. Knowing that Oakland has those two pitchers that, especially with the Flaherty question mark right now, would you try to pull the trigger on getting a Manaea or Montes? I don't know what the asking price is. We can only speculate. But, man, would both of those guys look good in the Cardinal uniform?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Manaea, like you said, is going to be cheap or cheaper, with the 1 year of control. And I do think St. Louis is probably a place that he would find attractive to entertain a deal. I'm sure we could maybe flip that and even try to sign him long term, with some of the young talent we do have. And, we probably do have a package to get them both done. It's what do we want to give up in prospects? But I mean, we're deep in outfield prospects. We're deep at first base. I mean, you got goalie, then you have, Yepes, and I'm blanking on the other one right now.
Noosbar.
Yeah, Nootbaar. You could ship them off, and that could for sure get one of them. From there, I mean, at one point I haven't looked in a while, but we even had some depth at shortstop, and I think this is DeYoung's year to probably again step in or step out. We've seen what he can do. Will he come back? But I mean, you have shortstop. You have two people at shortstop that are tradable. I think they have some value. So there, yeah, I think we could definitely get it done.
Well, I'll transition that since you brought up DeYoung. Obviously Cardinal fans were hanging on their seat basically thinking we might get Trevor Story. And obviously Correa we knew would have been out of what Mo would have felt comfortable giving. But seeing the deal that he took, a 3-year deal with an opt-out after each year, I was talking to Larry before we got on, and looking at the Cardinals payroll, right now we're ranked 12th in payroll with like $144 million. If you went out and signed a guy like Correa, knowing, hey, he's got the option to opt out, and you do have money like Wainwright and Molina coming off the books next season, if you really wanted to make a push, you could have, I don't think the Cardinals even toyed with the idea of bringing in Correa, but even a Story, I don't know that it made sense. We're not confident in DeYoung, but we know what he can do. But we have him relatively cheap for what some of those guys are making. They're making some big bucks. So I don't think I was too surprised that the Cardinals didn't pull the trigger on a shortstop. But, what say you guys on what to expect out of DeYoung and Sosa? Because obviously Sosa took DeYoung's job at the end of the year. I don't see him being the everyday shortstop for the Cardinals. I think they still go with DeYoung. But what do you guys think about that? Larry, I'll start with you.
I think DeYoung makes a big comeback this year. I think he's had a couple bad seasons. I can't really blame the past manager and all that. I'm not going to place that blame because the player still has to swing the bat. I'm not going to blame a hitting coach because again, the player has to swing a bat. But I think this is his year, make it or break it. Like Zach said, he's got to either kick it in or kick out. And I think this is his year. I really do. I mean, this guy hit 30 home runs, was an all-star. I think he still got it. And he still plays great defense. I mean, I'm sorry. I think Sosa's defense was exposed in the playoff game against the Dodgers. I mean, I think he booted a couple of balls, and I think that makes a big difference right there. I think Sosa is exactly what we always thought. He's a platoon player at best. He's a journeyman infielder, a backup player, utility guy. I don't think he's a starter. To me, I would have dealt Sosa last year. Why he had value before the Dodgers came even maybe. But I think DeYoung kicks it back in, and I think he's going to have a great season. I really do.
I'm with you on that. I think with DeYoung, obviously he battled with getting hit on the hand. He had the hand injury. He did battle some COVID stuff. I don't think he totally bounced back from being, not saying he was amazing before, but he was a little more consistent with the bat than what he had been last year. Last year was just horrific. But like you said, he is solid, defensively, and especially when you've got Arenado right there too. Sosa's better suited for this team to be the guy on the bench. And really, if we got rid of Sosa, I mean, who's going to be that utility guy in the infield? Because we've got Edman as your everyday shortstop now, and you really don't have any infield depth on the bench. I mean, currently, what is it? Kisner, Newt Barr, and Sosa. That's what we've got on the bench. Zach, I know you talked about DeYoung, but do you feel confident that he has that comeback year this year?
I definitely think he knows he's got somebody on his heels that, we would not be opposed to inserting there. I do think that, looking at Sosa, I almost think that last year, had we had the DH, he would have been the perfect Cardinals version of a DH because he, gets the ball in play. And we're probably for this foreseeable future never going to have somebody in that role that's just a, 50 home run guy. But, looking at Young, yeah, I mean, the guy is capable himself of probably having a 40 home run year, 100 RBI year. It's just, I think he's definitely a guy that not only flows off of confidence of, himself, but also those around him. And so last year, we just never really got into a groove until we hit that 17-game win streak. I think the other thing too, fans got to remember of we have a lot of money potentially coming off. I should say a lot. We have contracts for sure coming off the books after this year. It's pretty much I shouldn't say every, but it's definitely O'Neill's year to have a good second year, and he'll get a contract or we'll find something else. Same with Bader. Most likely, if they fall flat on their face, I'm sure we'll look at other, especially with a pretty deep outfield free agent class next year. But 2024 is loaded, so I mean we have a lot of money. We might be 12th now, but I could see us being 5, 6, 7 somewhere in spending in the next 2 years, pretty easy.
Yeah, and talking about these outfielders, I mean, the Cardinals do have a talented young outfield, and to have 2 Gold Glovers in Bader and O'Neill, and O'Neill really put on the power numbers last year, and finished in the top 10 in MVP voting. So I mean, he really had a breakout year. Yeah. I was a little surprised, looking at the arbitration hearing. The Cardinals went ahead; they gave Flaherty $5 million, which he took. Reyes was at 2.85, Gallegos 2.4, Hudson at just over $1 million, and Hicks at under $1 million. I was surprised that O'Neill and Bader are both, having to go to arbitration hearing, because O'Neill come in at 4.15 and the Cardinals only came in at 3.4. That's not really a big difference, but I'm surprised the Cardinals kind of lowballed him, after having that great of a season. Same with Bader. I mean, except Bader is asking for 4.8, and the Cardinals countered with 3.8. When you've got 2 guys that are Gold Glovers, I'm not saying it ruffles feathers, but that's going to be hard for those guys to go in the courtroom, make their case for why they think they deserve that, just to have Mozeliak tell them, hey, this is why I don't. O'Neill has said during spring training he wishes the Cardinals would have offered him an extension. He loves playing in St. Louis. I was a little surprised at the low offer. Do you guys think that, the not matching what they wanted, you think that ruffles the feathers between Bader and O'Neill?
I think with O'Neill, I think he's going to get the long-term deal. I think he's going to get that before. I don't think he's going to make it to the courtroom, so to speak. And I think right now, I think it's just basically, here's what we're offering, here's what you want. So if we give you this for, say, 5 years, are you going to be happy with that? So I think that's the biggest thing. Is he going to take, say, so let's say $25 million for 5 years? Is he going to settle for that when he knows he can get maybe 30, 35 on the open market? Like you said, he loves St. Louis. They gave him the shot. Bader's problem is the inconsistency. So which is the real Bader? The guy that had the good hot start, the bad middle, and then the hot finish. That's the thing. The gloves only were so much, and the fact that he really almost non-existent really on the base pass last year. He really didn't steal that many like he had in the past. So his speed really wasn't on display. So he's kind of one-dimensional. It's his glove. So I can understand they're lowballing him. And I don't think he's really their long-term answer in center field. I think they've got other kids they're looking at, and I think they've got other guys they're bringing up. Burlson and those guys are coming up behind him. So there's a lot of outfield potential in there. Maybe Bader's one of the guys they're looking to move. Who knows? You know how Mozeliak is. You never know what he's going to do till he does it.
For sure. Zach, what about you? I mean, were you surprised to see both of those guys not, locked up with the rest of them?
A little bit more so. Again, I think Bader than O'Neill. Just because O'Neill has had back-to-back Gold Gloves. I think I almost kind of wonder if O'Neill giving him that option that they are giving him that amount, maybe they knew he wouldn't accept it. Maybe they want to see what happens, because I think then that kind of, decides, okay, what's going to happen, when we do give him a contract. I almost feel like maybe they're putting some feelers out there, because let's say, I think they're waiting for him to have another year, but let's say he has a 40 home run year. I mean, you're talking about a guy who then could have the outlook, power wise of a Matt Holliday, and, not going to go down the Albert Pujols range, but I mean, he'll be the most exciting hitter probably in St. Louis since, those of what his potential could be. I also think he came into camp. He looks to me, having a background in exercise science, he looks like he is leaner. Like, I mean, he doesn't, he looks like he's cut some fat even. I mean, I don't think he's dropped much weight, but he does look leaner. He looks ready to go. So that I think is maybe more of a litmus test of what would we have to give this guy? Because if we don't lock him up and he has another year, then it might push him to where, okay, I'm not going to stay, or I might just test this thing out for a couple more years, and he could be looking at some really big dollars. I think also the days of Mo's ability to, I don't want to say ability, but we locked up DeYoung on a 5-year, $25 million extension to avoid this whole, fiasco, because we knew what his first year was like, where I think Tommy Edman might be the only guy, just because it's who Tommy Edman is and he's just a baller and wants to play. I think he would be one of the only guys on this team right now to be like, yep, I'll take a team-friendly deal so that I can stay here, because he loves it and he knows he has a place, whether it's at second or somewhere else.
So, but do you think by bringing him back without an extension, do you think that makes him, maybe gives him that, that desire to prove Mozeliak wrong? So maybe O'Neill really settles in this year to prove that he's worth that big contract. So maybe that is an incentive on the ownership's part, or management, I should say, on their part, of trying to push him along even further than he already has.
Yeah, definitely.
It could be. I mean, you look at in the shortened 2020 season, I mean, he did win a Gold Glove, but he struggled at the plate, to where he was right around 200 hitter, and it's like he had that great year last year, and, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but, I called that he would hit over 30 home runs. Bullshit, Larry. Don't look at me like that. But seriously, yeah, I called it on that, but I knew that he had to stay healthy all year in order to do that. And the thing with Bader is, a lot of people say, he's nothing with the bat. You got to look at, too, he's not consistent with the bat. He was still able to put up, over 10 home runs, and he missed a good chunk of time. And when you're looking at a guy as elite as he is at center field, how many elite center fielders are 25 home run guys? Those are the ones making the $25-30 million. So to be able to pay Bader $4.5 million, I think it's still a bargain. I mean, for what these guys are getting paid. But to Zach's point, if we don't lock up some of these guys, or sign them to an extension, even though extensions have backfired for the Cardinals, these are some of the guys that I think are going to go out and look for the dollar. I mean, Bader, obviously, he's got his face everywhere. He's the pretty boy. He would take money from a New York Yankees or somebody that would pay high dollar. And same with O'Neill. I think he loves playing in St. Louis, but he doesn't have any St. Louis ties. I mean, it's just that we've given him a chance and he likes playing here. A team would overpay for both those guys if the Cardinals ain't careful. They
Toronto.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, they'll bring him home. I think, not to cut you off, Chris, but I made the comment of, it's probably not going to be our style to go out and get a 50 home run DH for a while. But if O'Neill if he's a 40 home run guy, that's the other thing too. He gets all of his injuries pretty much diving headfirst into walls. So that guy hits 40 home runs. I could also see being like, yeah, you know what? We're going to pay you big. So all you do is hit.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's, we look at those extensions we gave out, like Carlos, when we gave him that extension, he was coming off being the ace of our staff that year that he got the extension. We got him cheap. Now, the outcome of that contract is hindsight. It didn't work out in our favor. But again, for a starting pitcher of his caliber and his ability, he was a bargain even up till the very end, even though he's crazy as all get out. But then you got guys like DeYoung. I mean, you signed a 30 run home run all-star guy for a contract for 3 or 4 years. You got a bargain there too. I mean, we did that, with what's his name? We traded to Oakland.
Piscotty.
Piscotty. That was a cheap deal. Even the A's appreciate that. So, tying those guys up for a longer contract for 3 to 5 years has really been to the benefit of Mo because they are tradable contracts. They're not expensive. I mean, now when you're looking at guys making, I don't know, $47 million a year to pitch, maybe, those are the guys, those are the contracts now you're looking out for. Guy making measly 15, 20 million, that's nothing anymore.
Well, you talking about Carlos, we could segue that into, him signing a minor league deal with the San Francisco Giants and Matt Carpenter signing a minor league deal with the Texas Rangers. I know both of those guys have given Cardinal fans plenty to complain about in the last couple of years. But if you looked at the longevity of both of them in a Cardinal uniform, what Matt Carpenter has meant to the team, I hate to see a lot of our fan base totally shit on, what he's done the last few years. Now, granted, the production wasn't there. It's warranted to complain about the lack of stats that he's put up. But, for a guy to go out and, we're like good riddance, I just hate seeing that. I wish him all the luck in Texas. And the same with Carlos. He gave me a ton of headaches. Obviously, every time he come in, we're like, is this going to be Carlos that gives up, no runs in 7 innings, or is he going to give up 13 runs in 2 innings? We never knew what we were going to get with him. But his career as a Cardinal, I was surprised that he was, at the top, very top in franchise history in strikeouts through 9, and he's in the top 10 in all-time Cardinal strikeouts, and it's at 30 years old, he's still got a lot of years left. You would think that he could have climbed those ranks. He just never got it together. So, personally, I wish both of them all the best. I hope Carpenter rakes in Texas, and I hope that Carlos has a nice year in San Francisco. What say you on that, Larry?
I think that Carpenter, people forget the beginning of his career. The man was a machine getting on base. He did whatever he had to do to get on base. The changing it from him to leadoff hitter to the 3-hole kind of did a number on him, the power. He did hit the 30-plus home runs one year. Then all hell just fell apart. And so he's still a good guy. He still did a lot for the Cardinals. There's a lot of moments you can go back and just think about him dismantling the Cubs in Wrigley over a 4-game period. We sit and talk about how did Matheny continue to pitch to Big Papi? Well, how did Wrigley, they keep throwing the ball to Matt Carpenter over that weekend and eliminate them from the playoffs. But even with Carlos, I was one of those guys that kept thinking, man, this kid's going to put it together. This kid's going to put it together. And every single pitcher on that staff would say, this kid's got the best stuff of anybody on the staff. 10-cent head, I guess. I don't know. But again, we don't know what the Oscar Taveras death had anything to do with that or not. He was from the very beginning. He was kind of that wild child coming in, then the hair and all that crap. We're not getting all that. But then the divorce and all that. But I wish them both the best. I think they're both great players, I should say, or competitors. They just had bad timings, I guess.
Yeah, same question to you, Zach. You got any sentiment on Matt Carpenter or Carlos and their time in St. Louis?
Yeah, hopefully I hope, first and foremost, I hope they do come back, and reemerge into even, a percentage of what they were, because they were both fun to watch when they were, at the top. And I, looking back, all of that stuff was enjoyable. Even when they had their lows, I think we always, had high hopes for them. One thing I'll say, though, is as much as I want them to do well, I kind of fear if they do well, it's going to confirm our worst fears that our coaching staff is not up to par, like a lot of people kind of think. So maybe I hate to see guys just go out and just be totally burnt out and a shell of themselves, which, again, that's kind of how these two left St. Louis. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, well, somebody does resurrect these guys. I think we need to have another serious look of, was it Schilt, or did Schilt have a point? Time will tell, I think, and maybe it won't tell with them, but that's kind of what I'm looking at those two right now as.
Yeah, I know when years ago when we didn't re-sign Lance Lynn, that broke my heart. I was big on Lynn, when he went out and he pitched well for the Twins and the Yankees, and had a great year last year for the White Sox. I don't in a way want them to come back to bite us on Carlos going out and being the Cy Young one or something. But, at the same time, I think the Cardinals give him more of an opportunity than they did, a Lance Lynn or whatever, because they tried fitting him in the closer role. They tried getting him back in the rotation. And when he was on, I mean, we've all seen it. He was incredible. But when he would struggle, it was like, totally explode. And to Larry's point that he talked about all last season, maybe it was Molina, that connection between Carlos and Molina, it was like, I don't know. At times, Molina coddled him, but at the same time, they clashed a lot. It was like Carlos got his best stuff last season when Kisner was catching him, and they seemed to pitch quite well when Kisner caught him.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I mean, the game that always sticks out to me for Carlos is that game in San Francisco. He went 10 innings. I think he went 10 innings, shutout baseball. He had less than 100 pitches, and he could have kept going, but we didn't want to ruin the kid. I mean, I think that was 2015, maybe somewhere 15, somewhere in there, maybe summer of 16. It was one of those two summers. And I mean, I remember even the announcers, it was an ESPN game. They're just like, man, like the Cardinals are probably going to lose if they take this kid out. And then we did, and then we lost, but because nobody could touch him, and we just weren't offensively getting going. But that's the Carlos I remember that I'd like to see him return to, but time will tell.
Yeah, I always thought he was going to be the next coming of Pedro Martinez. I mean, he just had the stuff and had a swagger about him too. And I hated that after certain games, and we can agree to disagree on some of this. I'm sure people that will listen will be like, that's a little extreme, but. Like last year, he would struggle, and then people would see him out at the bar till 3 a.m, on the night that he, give up a ton of runs. And to me, that's just not a good look. And I'm not saying you need to lock yourself up in your hotel room after getting shelled and, be all down and depressed. But to me, it just kind of turned me off of wanting to give him any more chances. And I'm sure the ownership kind of felt the same way, that it was, how much longer are we going to, keep saying we're going to give him a shot, Larry, what do you think on that?
Well, I think that for the most part we forget that it's their job. It's not a hobby. It's not their fandom like it is ours. When you have a bad day at work and you want to go have a drink, nobody's stopping you. So I understand both sides of that. To me, the epitome of Carlos was last year: 6 innings, scoreless ball, perfect. The kid's throwing nothing but shells, man. They're BBs. Then he throws one ball to second base into the outfield, and he just gave up 6 runs that inning. And that's the typical Carlos Martinez right there. And it went from you couldn't beat him to now everybody just hit him. And all it took is a blink of an eye for him. And I think a lot of that is his psyche, his personality. And again, we don't know. I mean, with the international players, we don't know their upbringing. We don't know what kind of they were exposed to get here. We like to sugarcoat everything. Oh yeah, they signed a 14-year-old kid to go to this international school to learn how to play baseball, and they bring him in. Well, we don't know. He could have been separated from his parents for a long period of time. We don't know. They sugarcoat to make MLB look good. But again, we keep looking at this and we keep saying, the hair dye and all this crap. And he was just a kid. Let him be a kid. These guys are getting paid millions and millions of dollars to play a kid's game. And it is their job. And so I get it. That's the thing that we tend to forget a lot of times, that they have to blow off steam just like you or I do.
They do. They're in a spotlight, like you said, where you can see both sides. That, going out and blowing off some steam, I mean, that's one thing. It just kind of seemed like, he was in the wrong place, the wrong time. And, some of the incidents being a strip clubs, with Ozuna and Pham and stuff. And it was just like, at some point you got to have that maturity level. And we've got some young guys like Dylan Carlson that is mature beyond his years, and guys that are they keep their nose clean of any kind of trouble or bullshit. Carlos seemed to bring a lot of that onto himself. But I really think both Carlos and Carpenter will get, their shot this year. I mean, signing minor league deals, I think they're on clubs that they can make the team and make an impact. So, I'll be glad to see them both succeed, hopefully. In other news, we got Corey Dickerson was our one offensive signing that the Cardinals have done, and I'm not quite sure if that's the Cardinals' answer for the DH position or not. That Mo had said that he wanted to go get a lefty bat. In my opinion, we've got Lars Nootbaar that is a younger version of Corey Dickerson, so I'm a little surprised there that, in my opinion, Nootbaar is better defensively than Corey Dickerson. But to go out and get him and you're paying him $5 million, it leaves a lot to be desired on if he is our DH of the offensive moves that the Cardinals have made this offseason. So, Zach, I'll start with you. I know one name in particular that's still available. The Cardinals, have rumored to be talking to. What say you on that guy and maybe some other guys that the Cardinals could have brought in for that role?
I mean, the return to Pujols is inevitable, in my opinion. No, I'm halfway joking. I actually think there is some truth to that. I think that he does work his way back. There's a lot of guys that we could have brought in, but I mean, it's just not our style. I mean, we're not going to pay big dollars for a guy that hits unless we know that he can hit. And I think this was more of a scenario where, I mean, you look at Corey Dickerson lifetime, he's had 2 seasons in the last 10 years where he's below a 265 average. Yeah, twice. So, I mean, how many guys have we had in the last 5 years who have had above a 265 average? I mean, really, when you think about it, he hits the ball and he moves it around. And I think when you look at having Arenado power, you look at having the potential power Carlson has, O'Neill, like we're loaded with power. At the end of the day, though, we need guys who don't hit into double plays and guys who can move the ball around. And so I think, there's a pretty solid pickup. Honestly, I know a lot of people would have liked more, but we have power here. We needed another guy like Tommy Edman, honestly, not speed wise, but guy who's going to put the ball in play. And the thing I remember about Dickerson is Dickerson hits some weird stuff, just some balls that you don't think other people are going to hit. I remember when he was with Pittsburgh as 18 or 17, whenever that was. And I just remember playing them in the second half of the season after that trade. He made us look not great because, they were typical ground ball pitches, but somehow he put them into the outfield. So I actually like the pickup. Again, there's other guys that we probably could have gone for, but I think while we're evaluating what we have and mixing with the power, I like the move.
Yeah, I joke with all you guys in private about wanting to go out and get a Castellanos or a Schwarber or something. I knew the Cardinals weren't going to spend that kind of money on the DH, and we've talked about it too, that the Cardinals are probably going to utilize that into a revolving door of sorts to rest guys and not really have a true DH. And it might give a guy like Juan Yepez or Nolan Gorman a chance to make the club. I personally think Gorman stays in the minors because they really want him focused on getting better at second base, and eventually you could slot Edman over to shortstop if you call Gorman up. I think that's kind of the path that they're going to be on. But to get Dickerson, like I said, I looked at it like we're just paying for an older version of what Nootbaar could be.
Proven is the word.
Right, and he is, and to be a 260 hitter, that's better than what we have. I don't know if the Cardinals will go with the Yepez to see what he can do, because I think, as Larry's pointed out, he's kind of proven himself, in the minors. There's really not much left he can do down there. But I know Larry isn't really that big of a fan of bringing Albert back, so I'll swing it to him and let him explain of why the nostalgia tour of having him rejoin. How do you?
Yeah. And this is the thing. I don't have any ill feelings toward Albert leaving and all that. I think that's the best thing to have for St. Louis. We didn't hang on to the nostalgia and watch the guy deteriorate to nothing and overpay for him. And it gave us a couple shots at World Series. The reason I don't want him here, he's a one-dimensional guy. He can hit left-handed pitching. That's it. That's the only thing the guy's got going right now. He's not going to go out and spell Goldschmidt at first base very often because he just can't move. I love Albert. I think he's one of the best players. Well, he's probably the best player of my generation that I got to witness play. I didn't get to see Stan that much, so I can't really compare him to Stan. But the guy hit top 10 every year this first 10 years. Greatest hitter of all time. But if it was me, sign him a one-day contract, let him retire, enjoy your life, make him a hitting coach. I don't care. Give him a AAA team to manage. I don't care because he's one of the smartest players in baseball still. He does a lot for the St. Louis communities. I get it. But the offseason, I think Dickerson's a good ad. I'm sorry. I like the addition because he's not breaking the bank. He's not blocking anybody. He's not here long term. So just to bring him in, and then, what if, like you said, what if we go after Monet or Montes or, one of those guys from Oakland, Yepes is gone, then you have Dickerson sitting there and you're going, oh, look, see, we already got him. We don't have to go find a guy. So I think that's part of it too. It gives you lateral moves as a general manager that you can make those moves. But what if, Juan doesn't hit? You've got Dickerson sitting over there that can. Newt's bar, maybe he doesn't hit. That's the thing. We don't know until these guys play long term. And I remember when Bader and those guys came up, they was swinging at things in the dirt and everything else. And Yepes in the Mets game, he did not look sharp at first base by any means. He was playing out of position completely, looked like a fish out of water, and he did not endear himself to anybody. I mean, he was making stupid mistakes. So I don't know. I would like to see Albert wear a Cardinals uniform. Yes, for one day. Yes. After that, no.
I'll go as far as saying, obviously I'm a sucker for nostalgia and everybody knows that. But when you look at, obviously the Cardinals, they don't run this, as a, just for the fans. It is a business and they're trying to win. And I understand that. But when this is your last season of Wainwright and Yachty, where you could bring in Pujols and he's not going to cost maybe more than what Dickerson. I mean, you're not paying Pujols $10 million. I think he'll take less than that. If you sign Pujols, you've got a guy that he's 21 home runs shy of hitting 700. I could see him getting that 21. It's going to be he's going to be pressing to get it, but I think he will get it. If you brought him back, obviously Busch Stadium is going to be packed every game. Every time Pujols has came back, there has been like not an empty seat in the house, and he's got quite the reception. When you had like last season, when he went to the Dodgers, you had Arenado even making pitches during interviews being like, Albert, you're my favorite player. Just his presence alone, I think, would be worth whatever we're going to pay him, because I don't think it would be an overspend. And, I don't know if you've seen him, but Pujols looks like he's dropped 50 damn pounds, and he looks lean. Obviously, he's not the fielder that he once was, and we wouldn't expect him to be. But for what the Cardinals did so far, even if you got Dickerson, I could see the Cardinals go out and get Pujols as your, DH against lefties and a bench bat, when you need one. And I don't think it hurts the team at all, and maybe at least restores some excitement from the fan base of, we didn't go out and get a big name, but we got our Albert back. I think that would really spark the fan base.
So that played really well for a weekend. That's how well it played. So, okay, so you bring in Albert. He goes 0 for 30. Now, how's that nostalgia now, Chris?
Well, they bitched about Matt Carpenter, and we were paying him.
Exactly.
But we paid him a hell of a lot more than what Pujols is going to be signing for.
I mean, again, if you came in and he hit, let's say he started 15 games and he hit 7 home runs in those 15 games, the nostalgia's back. I get that part. I do. But at the same 15 games, what if he's over? You brought a guy in because of nostalgia. Now we just ran 2 guys off because we were tired of the games. We don't want that. We want to win. So now you're bringing this guy in. That's not a winning move. That's just a nostalgia move.
No, I get it. I just think what cost the Cardinals are going to. I think he takes a very cheap deal. I personally do. I mean, now that the National League has the DH, there's going to be plenty of teams that I would have thought already would be pursuing him pretty hot and heavy. It was rumored that, we were one of 3 teams that contacted him. The Rockies kind of shied away from it. But, when Mozeliak was asked about it, he didn't nip it in the bud. He said, we're not closing the door on that possibility, but, Mo, he doesn't really give you much insight on who they're interested in and not.
Albert would die in Colorado, man. He'd have to carry the oxygen tank around with him when he hits a dude.
I don't think it would have taken too long to hit those 21 home runs in Colorado.
Oh, no. 21 games.
Yeah. So I don't know, Zach. I mean, going back to Pujols, you think that there's a chance there?
There's probably some sort of incentive-laden deal out there on his table, and it's will his wife let him say yes? I mean, that's why they left. I mean, it's not why they left, but I mean, she was pretty vocal when they left about the money. I mean, maybe that's how he felt, maybe it wasn't, but we know that's how she felt. We 100% know it. And I mean, they have nothing but good things to say about the Angels. Most people who know the Angels organization don't have anything but good things to say. So he probably went to the AL version of the Cardinals, just a less winning one when you look at their franchise. But yeah, I mean, we know why she left, and do they value his ability a lot higher than other teams? I think is what it's going to come down to. And right now, with him not having signed yet, probably. I mean, again, there's in my mind, if you offer him, let's say you offer him a base of $5 million, which maybe to him seems like an insult, but he could earn up to $25 million for 1 year. I mean, and that's probably a lot of that maybe wouldn't come to fruition because he's not going to play every day, but just giving the options, and giving him the ability to control his destiny. I mean, he gets in a game, he hits, and he periodically, the more he's hitting, the more we can't, sit him. So there's going to be somebody who goes into a slump. So we move somebody around, move him to the DH so he's hitting all the time. I mean, those are what I'm talking about. And just having him in the dugout, I think with all the young guys we have, it can't hurt. So if that's what they do, I'd be all in favor for that type of a deal, that type of a reunion.
Yeah, I think, like Larry said, it might block a guy like Yepez that, obviously he's done everything he can in the minors, but defensively, like you've seen, he's not, somebody that you really want taking Goldschmidt's spot for a rest day. And God forbid,
Arenado's day.
Yeah.
That's what he's taking.
Right. And obviously we're banking on, Goldschmidt not, having any kind of an injury. We've been pretty fortunate there. But I just personally, it's not just it's Albert Pujols. It's just knowing he's a future Hall of Famer too. Even putting aside just the sentiment of him being a Cardinal, to have somebody that every ball player in the dugout is going to look up to. He's going to bring us, like that winning mentality, like, hey, I want to go out on top. I want to win a chip, and I think that mentality is something. If you go out and if Yepez is your DH, not taking anything away from the kid, I'm sure he wants to win too. If he says, hey, I want to win a championship, or if Albert Pujols is saying I want to win a championship, the team's going to rally more around guys like Wainwright, Molina, that, hey, this is it. The movie Major League, Jake Taylor, I've got one shot, let's win this whole fucking thing. You're going to rally around something like that. And his insight, I think, would help some of these young guys out a lot.
Stop and think about it. He was an Angel almost as long as he was a Cardinal, and they let him go. And they didn't win the championships. So, and they spent a shitload of money when he was there. They kept bringing guys in and putting him ready. He had the second best player in baseball behind him, and still they couldn't win. So I don't think
you could say they ruined him.
Well, that's the two guys with the walkers are not going to get it done. So
I don't know. It's worth a shot. That's something we've all went back and forth all off season on, and I'm a little surprised, even if it ain't the Cardinals, that because the rush of spring training now, if you're going to sign Pujols, you need to get on the horn with doing it, because he's already behind the 8 ball on getting started.
Honestly, I'm surprised a team like the Marlins or the Rangers or somebody. I mean, I'm surprised one of those teams haven't clamored to get him, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, if you guys had a chance to watch, any spring training games, I know I've tuned into the ones that have been on television, and I know it's not really you're not getting a good look at some of the guys, because obviously they're just pitching an inning here and there. But I mean, is there anybody that's jumped off the page that hey, he's having a pretty good spring so far that might be on the cusp of making the team that you wouldn't have expected to?
So far, there's not really been that big. There's not been that really big one. Like I said, the kid we brought in from Japan or Korea, wherever the heck he came from,
Verhagen.
Verhagen. He actually, like I said, he looked great against the Mets, and he pitched 3 innings, so I thought he looked good.
Yeah, like it's going to give guys like that, a chance to to break camp with the club. I don't think a move like the McAllister, I don't think he even sees the major league club, but maybe like an Aaron Brooks does, and Whitgren for the bullpen, the possibility there. I know Helsley's getting ready to show up, and there hasn't been anybody jump up kind of like Tommy Parsons did for us last year that had an incredible spring. Obviously, we're still early on and seeing that, but Zach Thompson, I've seen him pitch. We're looking forward to seeing if Liberatore is going to make the big league team or if he's going to get slotted back down in Memphis. But Zach, what about you? Is there anybody you've seen that's like, damn, he might make the club?
Yeah, I haven't been able to watch too much. I've been following around a lot of box score stuff, but I mean, really, from what I've seen, I will say I'm surprised. Given the lapse in time, I think obviously we're playing more guys who could probably break with the team than guys who wouldn't. And so I think given that, I think guys are actually probably in better form than I expected. I kind of expected there to be a couple of guys who come in like Martinez used to and not be prepared because they could use it as an excuse. Well, I couldn't use a team's, workout during whatever. I couldn't talk to the coach. So I feel like I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I mean, with the exception of our loss to the Astros, which, nobody seemed to really pitch bad in that game. One name that I've seen kind of thrown around that I know nothing about is Brendan Donovan. Couldn't even tell you. I could tell you nothing about him, but I've seen there people think he could make the lineup. And I think that to me has been probably the most surprising one. I think another name I saw or I heard it, and I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Bisakovic or something like that, Jacob Bisakovic, as a reliever. Like, haven't heard that name before either. So those are two names that I heard that just kind of made me go like, well, maybe I need to go find out who they are.
Right. There's been a couple guys like Alec Burlson. I've seen him a little bit, and they've been playing Delvin Perez a little bit, where kind of seeing that he's coming into his own a little bit. I know we were high on him years ago that he might be the next big thing. At shortstop, he's kind of had his struggles, but it's nice to see some of these guys get I guess like a good look. It's just kind of it sucks that the spring training is such a rushed ordeal this year that I don't think they're getting as much of a look, but it's awesome to have baseball back, regardless. And, whether spring training really pumps up some of these guys or not. I like what I see out of the Cardinals so far. So
I was listening to MLB radio the other day, and it said some of these guys were working out with the college kids, and they were actually filming and videoing the stuff they were doing, and they were able to send that to the front office as soon as the season was underway, and then they could get to evaluate what they were doing, their techniques and stuff. And I was really shocked at some of the pitchers that said that they were pitching against college kids and in order to get the beat in and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of interesting. And the fact that I guess, like, Zach said, a lot of these guys came in a lot ahead of schedule, even like you said, O'Neill looks like he slimmed down a little bit, and you can see these guys are ready to play. And the thing is now is I had heard, my mind just went blank for the Mets. The guy that just signed for the Mets. My God, my mind just went blank. Max Scherzer, thank you. Max Scherzer say, sorry, it just popped in my head, my inner voice. So Max Scherzer said that the bad thing is about this is if this works, could become the norm for spring training. They could cut spring training and make this faster. So that's the other issue. But a lot of these guys didn't take time off. So they're saying the injuries could be way up this year.
Yeah, I fear that happening, especially with the pitchers, that you're going to see a lot more injuries happen. And, it's nice that the Cardinals, we thought last year that the depth that we had would kind of be a blessing, and in a way it was, because we got guys like an Oviedo come up and get experience. And he didn't pitch horrible, but you could tell he wasn't major league ready for the role that he was put into.
His confidence got shot.
Right. And then so you go get guys like Wade LeBlanc and John Lester and Happ, which, Lester retired. I'm a little surprised there was some rumor that maybe Happ would take a deal, a cheap deal that I'm surprised you don't go back to somebody that did well for you last year and instead going over and getting all these guys from the Korean League. I will say, to Mo's credit, looking at these guys, as soon as I saw, some of these guys like a Verhagen, I'm like, damn it, these guys ain't pitched to the majors in so long. When I start deep diving into some of the analytics, and I'm not a stat geek, it's hard for me to get into all the numbers, but all these guys are ground ball heavy pitchers that obviously our defense, being what it is, we needed guys that threw the ball over the plate and got a lot of ground balls. And that's what a majority of the ones that they are signing, that's what they are, is ground ball pitchers. And the same people that, and I'll throw myself, into the mix. I wasn't that thrilled when we got TJ McFarland or Luis Garcia last year. I was with everybody saying, yeah, this is kind of a dumpster dive type of thing. But those are the guys that really carried the club. And it's crazy how our fan base changed its tune, because it was like when Luis Garcia went and got signed by the Padres, how could we let him go? And I'm like, the guy's 35, 36 years old, and sign him for $8 million. You guys didn't want him when he came here. So us going out and getting these guys as reclamation type projects, it could benefit the Cardinals. And I would rather them, in a way, go out and get 5 or 6 of these guys and maybe 1 or 2 of them stick, than to go out and spend big time money on a pitcher that, maybe would be a bust, especially a reliever. Because that's, you guys know how that is. A reliever might be great one year, horrible the next, and not as consistent as what a starter would be.
Mr. Miller. Oh, well, I mean, and the thing is, I guess we a lot of times, I guess, that we don't remember, there's multiple fields going on at the same time. So some of these guys are signed because they're not going to hit anybody. You don't want Burlson getting hit in the head by some kid that's throwing 105 mile an hour and he's a rookie. So you bring in a kid from overseas that's pitched, that's 34, 35, but he's a ground ball pitcher, like you said, and he's not hitting anybody. So Burlson gets the advantage of hitting against the guy that has some savvy to him and knows how to get outs, but yet he's facing major league pitching. So that's the other side of the coin too. Not every one of these guys is brought in to the fact that, we're going to let them join the roster and become part of the 40-man roster. A lot of them, they're just arms. I mean, it's like last year with the Ali Sanchez and those guys as catchers. They were brought in just simply for depth. You still got to have catchers in the bullpen. You still got to have catchers on the back fields. And that's the thing that we a lot of times overlook in the fandom of our world, is that we think every move is made for the major league club, and it's really not. It's a lot of times those guys are brought in and maybe they outshine what they were projected to do, and then they make the club. It's not that Mo said, I'm going to go get this kid and he's going to bump Cabrera off the roster because he's that good. He's brought in to maybe pitch the backfield, and he does really well, like a Parsons did last year. But I mean, even then, how many games were we into the spring training? And I kept saying, this Parsons kid, man, looks good. And then they left him off the roster, and then he went down to the taxi squad or whatever it was, and he got lit up. But, maybe that was a deflating moment for him. I don't know the psyche of the whole thing. But again, I think we always know what Mo's going to do. I mean, it's not a secret. He plays with what he has. He has the young kids. And then when he gets to the point where he has no other options, then he makes the deals. And like Zach said, Carrera and those guys, they're available next year. There's a lot of outfielders available next year. Maybe Mo's just saying, okay, let's see what we have in Bader. Maybe Bader doesn't make a great return this year, so we don't invest in Bader next year. We shit can him and say goodbye. O'Neill, we know he's going to be there long term. We know Dylan Carlson's going to be the other side. So now we have to get a center fielder in the offseason. So why tie up all of our money in 2022 when we have players there that are capable of maybe holding the position?
Yeah, I can see that. And I know spring training, there's just a couple weeks left before the start of the season. So obviously we'll get a feel of, who's got a better chance of making the club, come next week. I know they're already sending some guys down, reassigning them. And, but just in the next couple of weeks, like I said, we're going to get a better feel of what this club is going to look like as far as how the rotation rounds out. If Woodford gets that nod, or if, they go with an Oviedo or a Liberatore to start the season. But, obviously time will tell on that. I know I can kind of wrap this up by saying we are so glad that the lockout ended and we've got baseball back. it's just I'm excited to see what the Cardinals do. I know it's been a little bit of a lackluster offseason. I would have liked to have got one of the big name guys out there, but I understand both sides of it. You got fans that want to win now and go out on top with an ultimate farewell tour for Yachty and Waino. And I know that isn't the only reason that you want to win a championship. Everybody on the team does, but you kind of want those guys to ride off in the sunset with a championship. So I can see both sides of the fan base being a little put off with the move so far.
We didn't talk about the fact that Molina just showed up for camp. We kind of glossed right over that.
We sure did. I mean, you can go on with that.
I mean, because right now they're saying that there was family business or something in Puerto Rico or yeah, he's Puerto Rican, yeah. And I can remember Dominican, Puerto Rico, they're right there. But anyway, they said it was just family business. It was nothing injury wise or anything else. And it's not like we don't think he can catch or throw. So, and not only that, but the time off is probably good for him anyway. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I was a little scared when you weren't getting much clarity other than, there's personal issues. And it's like, Yachty would be at camp if he could be. So, it had to have been something major. And, I'm glad to see him, return. Obviously, the pictures that you see on the internet of him and Wainwright embracing, and I think Yachty went out and bought everybody a suit on the ball team. It's kind of like a gift, and I'm excited to see this. It's going to be really weird knowing that it's the end for him. We've talked about it for years. Is this going to be it? And he's basically saying this is it. So it's going to be a hell ride.
There's a rumor that he's trying to buy one of the Caribbean League teams. Is what's been going on. That's what I've heard a couple of times now. So
yeah, I've heard that as well. I just hope teams do cool stuff for me. Like when Jeter went, I mean, he's probably the greatest. I know people are going to say that, and I'll never think that Buster Posey was better than, not defensively, not, and that I think some of Buster Posey's Gold Gloves came because of his bat, just my opinion. But I mean, Buster Posey was great too, but nobody's going to touch Molina in my book. I mean, for the last 20 years, there just wasn't. Yeah, so I hope people give him the farewell that he deserves, especially the Reds. I mean, he's had all the beef with them. I hope they give him like something,
a golden shoe, a golden spike off of the.
Yeah, or maybe they'll bring in. Was it Cueto or who was that?
Cueto, yeah, Johnny Cueto.
Maybe they'll bring in Cueto to throw at the first pitch of his final game.
Or maybe he'll get to throw it at Cueto.
Yeah.
I mean, in my lifetime, I mean, seriously, I mean, Simmons, Bench, Carter, and Molina. Those are probably the top five right there in my lifetime. And I know I'm a little bit older than you guys.
You got to put Pudge in that.
And Pudge Rodriguez, that's the other one I was thinking of.
Yeah, Pudge. Yeah, Pudge was the first. I mean, Pudge is what made me fall in love with catching. Molina's because I caught through high school. So Pudge is what made me fall in love with catching. Molina is what kept me in love with it. So,
and like Zach said, to see that farewell tour is going to be nice because I'm a little surprised with Posey retiring and didn't really address that this was going to be it. You would think a guy like that, or really anybody, kind of wants that farewell tour. And Posey put up decent numbers and, just decided, hey, it's time to hang him up. I'm glad for Molina's sake that he still got something left in the tank that we can have this, farewell tour and not just him wrap it up and it be like, well, put a bow on it. He's done. It's going to be nice to see him go out his way.
I had read where they had to convince Posey to play last year. He was going to sit out last year. He was going to call it a career last year. Oh. And he thought he'll come back, he'll play. And then they had such success. They were surprised that he didn't decide to come back just because of the success they had last year.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, on that note, do you guys have anything else you want to talk about on this show? I know we've got, like I said, we haven't had a show in, over a month. So a lot of people might have thought we'd given up on it. I know that we've been putting out a lot of blog content on our website, cardinalsnation247.com. Myself and Brad Kell have, been writing all off season. So we're still putting out content. The show we're going to get back to doing weekly now that we've got baseball back and actually have some stuff to be talking about. So we hope this second season picks up where last season, left off, and we can get the ball rolling, be a little more consistent too with putting out some shows for everybody.
what I'd like to say is that this year, what we need to do is do a Cardinals 24/7 night at the ballpark. All the fans that watch our show or listen in on us, or even from the page, the group, whatever, all just show up at the Cardinals game one night, and we'll figure out a night. Just everybody show up. And heck, maybe we get up on the billboard or the jumbotron and we get all together. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, what's wild is, there's 50,000 members in the Cardinals Nation 24/7.
We take the whole field.
I was going to say, we'd be packing a stadium. You have people outside at Ballpark Village pissed off they couldn't get in.
I don't think the few from Australia, Japan, or Germany are going to make it, though, Chris.
Yeah, those trying to sell us knockoff T-shirts and all that shit. We got so,
you take this pill. You take this pill, and Tina, love you long time.
I love you long time. But no, I'm glad Zach was able to join us, on this show, and hopefully we can get him back on, and some of the other moderators, and our old co-host Jared Redwine. We need to have him back in the mix too. I know who's that guy, but it'd be nice, hopefully before the season starts, that we can kind of get a round table with majority of us, giving our thoughts and opinions, as if Mo's ever going to listen to us. We like to think that he will, but just appreciate everybody that's tuned in. And like I said, we're going to be putting this out again weekly and getting back on the horn with being a little more consistent. So thank everybody for tuning in. And with that said, go Cards.
Go Cards.